They didn't even pretend to grieve. I heard it with my own ears, 2 floors down from a nurse's phone on speaker. My daughter's voice cheerful, almost excited. "Mom's plane crashed. Finally, we can sell everything." Then a laugh. A sharp, relieved laugh, like my death was good news. Right before I continue, if real, painful stories like this shake your heart, make sure you subscribe. Your support helps bring more stories to life. That laugh cut deeper than the broken ribs inside me. As if I hadn't built the house she grew up in, cooked her lunches, co-signed her first car loan. As if I hadn't been her mother at all. I lay in the hospital bed, body shattered, ribs cracked like old china, lungs held together by machines. The nurse didn't know I was awake when she left her phone on the counter. I wasn't supposed to hear anything. But once you hear your own child rejoicing in your death, you can't unhear it. They'd checked me in as a Jane Doe because my purse and ID were stolen during the evacuation. The passenger manifest listed me as missing, presumed dead. The nurse said it helped avoid pressure from family. Family. She had no idea. I couldn't correct anyone anyway, not with a punctured lung and a face so swollen I barely recognized myself. The plane had gone down in a ravine near the Canadian border. Out of 121 passengers, 87 died instantly. I wasn't one of them. My row tore away during the descent and wedged between a tree and an icy ledge. Rescuers pulled me out hours later, unconscious and blue from the cold. The doctor called it a miracle. But the real shock came when I heard Candace. Her name still aches in my mouth. She used to call me Mommy. Then Mom. Then nothing, unless she needed money. I'd given her the down payment for her condo, paid for Bree's private kindergarten, cleared her credit card debt during the divorce. She never said thank you, not once. She treated me like a resource, not a person. So I don't know what hurt more, hearing she thought I was dead or hearing her celebrate it. That night I lay in the dim hospital room counting ceiling tiles. 23. Then again. 23, trying to stop shaking. My bones hurt, but my soul hurt worse. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Candace at age 12 kissing my cheek before school. Where had that child gone? The next morning, a man in a suit came. Shoes polished too well for the scuffed linoleum. He said he was from the airline, speaking softly, offering undisclosed settlement options, time-sensitive agreements. He had no idea I was the mother no one was searching for. No vigil, no online posts. No frantic daughter calling hospitals, just silence. Later the nurse told me Candace had already listed my house. My house. The living room where she curled up during thunderstorms, the backyard where we planted daffodils when she was 6. She described it as an outdated fixer-upper. There are many kinds of death. One is the body. The other is realizing you're no longer wanted, not as a person, just as property. Lying there, I made a decision. I wouldn't tell them I was alive. Not yet. When the man in the suit returned, I asked about compensation, process, rights. My teeth were cracked and missing one from the crash, but my spine was intact. 3 weeks later, they gave me a mirror. I barely recognized the woman staring back. Bruises like ink stains, matted hair, deeper wrinkles. But my eyes, they still knew me. They'd seen childbirth, betrayal, widowhood, bankruptcy. They weren't done yet. "June Mallow," I whispered. "You're still here." No obituary, no funeral, no daughter holding my picture with swollen eyes, just a real estate listing and a cheerful voice saying, "Finally." That's the moment I began to plan. Not revenge, something colder, justice. They moved me to a quieter wing as I regained strength. Nurses were kind but distant, the kind of kindness you give someone whose name you won't remember tomorrow. They called me Miss Doe and wondered, quietly, why nobody had come for me. I didn't tell them to call anyone. 6 weeks later, I was transferred to a rehab center. Gray walls, volunteers, wheelchairs, soft hymns echoing down the hall. I relearned simple things, cutting food, showering, balancing on my feet. And all the while, the world believed I was dead. A misidentified body. Old dental records. A clerical mistake that happens when no one is paying attention. Candace accepted it instantly. Signed the papers. Scheduled a celebration of life, brunch, no funeral of course. Grief was too much effort. 2 days after the crash, the real estate listing went live. Charming, well-loved home with vintage appeal. charming, well-loved. The words were so empty they echoed. Candace was already spending inheritance she didn't have yet. My lawyer emailed her about probate. She responded within an hour, pushing, insisting, eager to bury me on paper. She didn't know I'd updated my will years ago. Nothing would be automatic. And she didn't know I was alive, reading every email. The hospital forwarded me documents from the airline. My hands shook when I opened them. $18 million, to stay silent, to never sue, to disappear. I read it 3 times and placed it on my nightstand. No tears, no smile, just calm. Candace used to say I had a scarcity mindset because I saved money, packed lunches, drove the same car for 22 years. She mocked my responsibility. Now, I held more money than she could imagine. The airline wanted me gone. My daughter preferred me dead. I wasn't giving either of them what they wanted. Instead, I called the only person who ever checked on me without expecting a deposit. Marvin, my lawyer. He didn't scream, he didn't gasp, he just whispered, "June, where are you? Are you alive?" "Alive," I answered. Which is more than I can say for my reputation. We met 2 days later in a borrowed office. I wore a scarf and sunglasses, not to hide, but because the world felt foreign. He had tears in his eyes, I didn't. "I want you to accept the settlement," I told him. "But I want control, and I want Candace nowhere near it." He nodded. "There's a trust," I continued. "I want it set up in Bree's name with conditions. She doesn't get a cent until she turns 30, and she must be financially independent from her mother. Put that in writing." He didn't argue. "And buy me time," I said. "A year, no obituary, no statements, no corrections. Just silence." He leaned back. "You're planning something." "No," I said softly. "I'm just finished pretending." The morning after, I signed myself out of the rehab center. No fanfare, no questions. Just a clipboard, a shaky signature, and a cab ride 3 hours north to a town no one would ever associate with me. I rented a small 2-room apartment under a new name, June Emerson. Emerson was my grandmother's maiden name. She would have liked that. She always said women should reinvent themselves at least once. I bought a cheap pair of shoes, a heavy dark coat, and a used car with a dent in the bumper. Nothing about me looked like someone carrying an $18 million secret. I looked like a woman starting from zero. And the truth was, I was. The first time I returned to my old street, I didn't even get out of the car. I stayed behind a delivery van, hands gripping the steering wheel, watching my own house like it belonged to someone else. Because it did. All the hydrangeas I planted after Walter died, gone. Dug up. Replaced with some sterile gray stones and a patch of fake grass that looked like it came from a discount garden store. Even the wind chime Bree made in second grade, the one she hung with seashells from our beach trip, was gone. And there was Candace, my daughter, standing on the porch in a white blazer, smiling like a real estate agent on a billboard. No black clothing, no puffy eyes, no hesitation, just a woman ready to close a deal on the home her mother supposedly died in. I watched a young couple trail behind her, pointing at the roof, laughing, imagining their new life. They walked through the doorway I had walked through thousands of times, and I swear, the world tilted for a moment. I didn't recognize anything. It was as if someone had erased me from my own story. That night, back in the tiny apartment, I opened the secure laptop Marvin had set up for me. No logins tied to June Mallow, nothing traceable. Just a silent folder with every email Candace had exchanged with the estate attorney. She was efficient. Coldly, aggressively efficient. She'd emailed photos of furniture she wanted priced, asked a moving company for quotes, attached pictures of my dining table, my cedar chest, my mother's wedding quilt. A reply sat under one of the photos. "Too worn for resale. Will likely be discarded." Discarded. My mother handed me that cedar chest on my wedding day. She pressed it into my palms like it was the last inheritance she had to give. She whispered, "Everything I ever cared about fit inside this once. Keep it close." Candace called it old-fashioned. The next days blurred together. I kept returning, not to confront, but to understand who my daughter truly was when she thought no one was watching. On a warm, cloudy Thursday, I saw her again. Silver Audi, perfectly pressed blazer. She made a call, sipped a smoothie, then Bree slid into the passenger seat. My granddaughter looked older, tired, her shoulders slumped. Candace talked and gestured, voice sharp, hands slicing the air. Bree just stared out the window and barely spoke. Later, I followed them to a storage facility. I stayed hidden behind a row of trees while they unloaded boxes. Candace held a clipboard like she was directing a crew. Bree stayed quiet, lifting things gently, like everything inside those boxes still meant something to her. Inside one box, I saw it, the little ceramic horse Walter gave me on our 5th anniversary. Candace tilted the box, careless, and the figurine rolled to the side. She didn't even glance at it. After they left, I walked to the dumpster behind the building. And there, buried in broken wood and packing paper, was my wedding photo. The glass cracked clean through Walter's face. I picked it up, held it close, not out of grief, out of realization. Candace wasn't just clearing the house. She was erasing the woman who raised her. That night, I called Marvin. "She's getting rid of everything," I told him, "even the things that built our life." He didn't interrupt, he just listened. "What do you want to do?" he finally asked. I looked down at the cracked photograph, my hands trembling over a life she'd thrown away like it was clutter. "I want to watch," I said. "I want to see the world she built on top of my grave. And when the right moment comes, I want her to look at me, alive, whole, not to frighten her but to show her exactly what she lost." The law moved slowly, slower than grief, but it moved with precision. 5 weeks after the crash, Candace filed for full transfer of estate assets. She claimed no surviving relatives. The phrase nearly made me laugh, as if I hadn't raised her through fevers, bullies, heartbreaks, and job failures. Marvin blocked every motion quietly. No drama, no trail, just small, deliberate delays. Identity unverified, documents pending, additional review required. Candace grew impatient, fired her first lawyer, hired another. Meanwhile, she moved into a new downtown office. Sleek, glass enclosed, rebranded her interior design business into some kind of lifestyle curation agency. She called herself Self-Made Online. Self-made on a foundation built with my checks. Bree helped her on weekends. I watched from across the street, unnoticed, as the girl unpacked vases and books. Her sneakers still had little hand-drawn doodles on the sides. She used to draw houses with hearts inside them. Now she stood in a place where I didn't exist. One afternoon, I followed her to a bookstore. I waited by the magazines while she wandered into the fiction aisle. She sat cross-legged on the floor, reading quietly, just like she used to in my living room. For a moment, grief welled up so sharp I had to bite my lip. My daughter wanted me gone, but my granddaughter, she still felt like home. I walked out of the bookstore before Bree ever knew I was there. Not because I feared her seeing me, because I wasn't ready yet. Not for the confrontation. And not for the aftermath that would follow once the truth broke open. A few days later, Marvin called. "She's pushing hard," he said. "She filed another motion, claiming the delay is unreasonable. We can stall a little longer, but not indefinitely." "She's running out of time," I said quietly. "Yes. She is." After we hung up, I sat at the small kitchen table in my rented apartment and made a list. Not of people, not of things. A list of truths. The facts that stripped away every excuse I used to let myself believe. Truth. Candace did not cry when she thought I was dead. Truth. Candace never called a single hospital. Truth. Candace made no effort to confirm anything. Truth. Candace immediately began selling everything I owned. Truth. Candace treated my life like inventory. Truth. Candace erased me without hesitation. But the seventh truth, that one felt different. Truth. Candace never asked Bree how she felt about losing her grandmother. That is where the crack lived. Not in money, not in legal filings, but in love. In the bond between a girl and the grandmother who once tucked her in at night. Bree still wore the locket I gave her when she turned 13. A tiny gold oval with a picture of Walter and me inside. She had told me once that she rubbed it during tests for good luck. I didn't know if she still did, but she still wore it. That alone meant something. On Sunday, I returned to the street where my home used to be. The young couple had moved in. A pair of cheap wind chimes hung where Bree's seashell chime once sang in the breeze. They clicked together in thin, hollow notes. Nothing like the soft, uneven music of the shells she carefully threaded with twine when she was 7. I stood on the opposite sidewalk and let myself look. Not because I wanted the house back. I didn't. I just needed to remember what it looked like before it was packaged and sold like a piece of outdated furniture. Then I walked 5 blocks to the cafe where Candace strutted through her brunch meetings. And of course, she was there, white blazer again, perfect hair, surrounded by 2 women in pastel sweaters. She laughed too loudly, touched her collarbone in that rehearsed way she always used when trying to look softer, gentler, more likable. I sat at the counter. No one recognized me. People rarely look closely at older women unless they need something. Watching her laugh felt surreal. This is the face of someone who believes she's won, I thought. She didn't know the game had barely started. By the time I reached my car, my decision had solidified into something cold and clear. I would go to her office, not to create a scene, but to look her directly in the eyes. To let her see, in a single breath of silence, that the woman she buried was standing in front of her. Alive, whole, and remembering. The receptionist at the office didn't recognize me either. Her cheerful smile meant nothing. "Do you have an appointment?" she asked. "Yes," I replied calmly. "Tell Miss Mallow her 10 o'clock is here." She hesitated, glanced at her computer, then at me. "I don't see a 10 o'clock on her schedule." "She'll want to see me." Something in my voice must have convinced her. She called. I heard Candace through the receiver, sharp and irritated. "What do you mean she's already here?" A brief pause. "Oh, fine, send her in." Candace didn't meet me at the door. She stayed behind her pristine glass desk like she was guarding a throne. Her office looked expensive: white marble, brushed gold accents, books arranged by color rather than meaning. On the wall, a black and white portrait of herself. Arms crossed, chin up, eyes narrowed with practiced authority. She lifted her gaze to me like I was a client she couldn't quite place. Then she blinked. Once. Twice. Her jaw tightened, but she didn't speak. I closed the door behind me. Quietly, no one else needed to hear this. "Hello, Candace," I said. Her hands pressed flat against the desk as if she needed the surface to steady herself. She looked at me like I was a ghost she couldn't rationalize. "You look well," I added, "though I can't imagine the same is true for your conscience." That broke the spell. Her face hardened, the mask snapping into place. "What is this?" she demanded. How are you?" "I survived," I said plainly. "No one told me, no one called, no one called," I agreed, "because no one tried." She pushed back her chair, standing abruptly. "What are you doing here? Why would you show up like this?" "To see how fast you swept me out of your life." I thought you were dead." "Yes," I said. "That was very convenient for you, wasn't it?" Her lips parted, but no words came out. I glanced around her office. Perfect, polished, hollow. "You sold the house 2 months after the crash," I said quietly. "Threw out my wedding album, tossed my belongings in donation bins, rebranded your business, gave motivational speeches about reinvention, and told people you built everything on your own." Her jaw trembled, but only for a second. "I mourned you," she said weakly. "I didn't know what else to do." "No," I said. "You prepared." The silence was suffocating. I reached into my coat and pulled out a sealed envelope. Her eyes followed it. "This is formal," I said. "You'll be contacted by my attorney shortly." She took it with shaking hands. What does it say?" "That I'm alive," I replied, "and that every cent you plan to inherit is under my control." Her fingers tightened around the envelope. I turned to leave. "Wait," she said suddenly. "Why now?" "Why come now?" I paused, my hand on the door. "Because I needed to see your eyes," I said softly. "To find out if there was any part of my daughter left in there." I didn't stay for her answer. I left her behind that glass desk, holding the envelope like it might explode. 3 days passed before she responded. Marvin forwarded her email. One cold subject line: clarification. No greeting, no apology. Just questions about legality, about assets, about previously assumed holdings. "Not my mother, not June, just assets," Marvin called. "She's shaken," he said. "And she's consulting another firm, probably searching for a loophole." "She won't find one," I replied. "No," he agreed. "But she's persistent. She'll claw at the ground even after it freezes." That night I walked along the river, my new habit, my new therapy. The soft rhythm of my steps brought back memories I didn't invite but couldn't stop. I remembered Candace as a baby, curled against my chest after Walter's funeral. I remembered brushing her hair, kissing her scraped knees, holding her hand through storms. She once said, "It's okay, Mommy, I'm here." Now she wasn't. Not really. Candace had built her life like a ledger, everything measured in cost and return. The next morning, I went to the bank. "I'd like to open a trust," I told the clerk. "For Brianna Claire Mallow." "Your daughter?" she asked. "No," I said softly. "My granddaughter." The clerk smiled warmly. "What kind of trust?" "One that protects her," I said. "From everything she doesn't know she needs protection from." The paperwork took hours. I read every line twice, then added the clause myself. Bri could not access the funds until she turned 25. And she would be protected, from her mother most of all. She wouldn't qualify for the trust if she remained under her mother's guardianship or financial grip. And she wouldn't receive a single dollar until she sat face to face with my attorney and heard every condition out loud. Not to punish her, no, this was a warning wrapped in protection. When I stepped out of that bank, I felt lighter. Not because I'd secured money for Bri, but because I'd finally secured something her mother could never contaminate, her future. That night, for the first time in months, I slept through without jolting awake. 2 weeks slipped by. No contact from Candace, not directly, but her presence pressed against the town like a cold front. She uploaded a new photo to her business page with the caption, "New beginnings, stronger than before." Her eyes didn't look stronger, they looked trapped. Bri emailed me the next morning. Not through social media, through the private address I'd created after the crash, the one Marvin used for legal updates. Subject: "Is it really you?" I stared at it for a long time before opening. The message was brief. "Grandma, I don't know if I'm supposed to write you. Mom says you're unwell. She says things that don't add up. But I heard you went to her office, and I think I saw you by the bookstore weeks ago. If it was you, I'm glad. I hope you're okay. Love, Bri." I read it 4 times before typing back. "Yes, sweetheart, it was me, and I'm strong enough now to face the truth. Thank you for seeing me when no one else bothered to. There's more I need to tell you. Meet me, just you. Love always, Grandma June." I didn't expect a quick reply, but 3 hours later, "Tell me where and when." My hands trembled as I typed. "Tuesday, 4 o'clock p.m. The place with the lemon tarts you love. Delaney and 3rd. She sent a single heart emoji. Somehow, that little red symbol meant more than every sentence Candace had spoken since she tried to sell off my life. When I arrived, Bri was already there. Sitting by the window, fingers wrapped around a water glass, head snapping up at every sound of the door. When our eyes met, she stood slowly. "Hi." It wasn't a question. It wasn't hesitant. It was recognition. "Hi," I answered. We hugged, stiff at first, then warmer longer. When she sat again, I saw the silver locket resting against her collarbone. The chain was new, the clasp replaced, but the locket was unmistakable. "You cut your hair," I said gently. She touched the ends. "Felt like time." "It suits you." The server arrived. I ordered coffee, she ordered her usual lemon tart. For a while, we just sat, 2 women tied together by blood and months of unspoken truths. "You look different," she said finally. "I am," she nodded. "I figured." The coffee came. She moved the lemon curd around with her fork but didn't eat. "I didn't know," she whispered. "After the crash, I thought maybe the identification was wrong. But Mom said everything was confirmed. She said she identified you." "She didn't," I answered quietly. "I know that now." Her eyes met mine fully for the first time. "She didn't grieve." "No," I said. She moved on like it was a sail she'd been waiting to clear. Bryce swallowed hard. "The house, your things, she said you'd want her to start fresh. That she was honoring you." A bitter laugh threatened to spill out, but I kept it down. "Do you believe her?" "Not anymore," she whispered. "Was it hard?" she asked. "Coming back?" "No," I said. "Leaving was harder." Her expression shifted, curiosity mixed with relief. "So why come back now?" "Because I needed to know if I still had family left." Her breath caught slightly. "You do." It hit deeper than I expected. I inhaled slowly. "Your mother, she made choices." "I'm not here to punish her," I said, "but I'm finished pretending." Bri nodded. "She doesn't know I'm here." "I assumed." She told me you were unstable, dangerous. How convenient, I murmured. She's afraid. She hides it well, Bry said softly, but I can see it. She should be. Silence fell again, but this time it felt almost comforting. Then Bry nudged her tart toward me. You always stole the lemon part and left me the crust. I couldn't help smiling. Still my favorite part. Figures, she muttered, smiling through tears. We ate a little, sipped coffee, rebuilt something fragile but real. I've set things in motion, I finally said. Legal things, financial things, you need to understand what that means. I'm listening. There's a trust in your name, but it comes with conditions. She didn't flinch. Go on, you get nothing if your mother controls any part of your finances. If she files as guardian, custodian, anything, it voids. I'm 20, she said. She doesn't control me. Not on paper, I said. But I've seen how influence works. She bit her lip. There's more, I added. You won't access it until you're 25. You'll meet Marvin, review everything, sign with full understanding. And if I don't, you walk away. No strings, no pressure, your choice. She relaxed slightly. Why me? She whispered. Why give me anything after all this? Because when I was gone, you were the only one who noticed. Her eyes flooded. She blinked fast. I missed you, she breathed. So much, but I didn't know how to say it. Mom made it hard. I know. She's going to lose it when she finds out I met you. I'm counting on it. Bry actually laughed, soft but real. We talked until our cups were empty. When she got up to leave, she reached for my hand. You came back. I never left, I whispered. And our hug this time felt like home. Candace didn't know I was watching. She sat on the patio of a restaurant downtown, heater lamps glowing against her perfect skin. Across from her, Deborah Lang, an old college friend turned real estate attorney. I'd already checked Deborah's calendar. Strictly business, Marvin had said. I came early, found a distant table half hidden behind a fern, dark glasses, neutral coat, looking like a stranger. They never saw me. Are you sure about this? Deborah asked. I've waited a year, Candace replied, swirling her wine. She doesn't get to reappear and take everything back. She's alive, Deborah reminded. Candace let out a clipped laugh. Barely. She looks different, acts different. Whatever she wants, she's not getting it. It's not about what she wants, Deborah said. She's legally your mother. No, Candace snapped. She was entitled, then she vanished. Now she's a disruption. The certainty in her voice was knife-sharp. You can't vanish for a year and expect your old life back, she went on. I built everything she left behind, my business, my image, my narrative. I'm not undoing all of that just because she didn't stay dead. Deborah watched her carefully. You sound, what, realistic, Candace smirked. She walked away from her place in this world. I stepped into it. I didn't move, didn't blink. This was the truth I'd been waiting to hear. She's planning something, Candace said. I can feel it. Bry's asking questions. You think Bry's in contact, Candace shrugged. Maybe, she's sentimental. I told her to stay away. And if she doesn't, then she learns the hard way that money and loyalty don't mix. Candace wiped condensation from her glass, every movement controlled. If she sues, she added calmly, I'll challenge her competency. If she plays nice, I'll make her sound unstable. Judges hate complications from old, confused women returning after being declared dead. Deborah stared at her. You've thought all this through. I've lived it, Candace said. That was enough. I rose, walked out quietly. My certainty solid as bone. Back home, I sat at the table, staring at the sealed envelope Marvin prepared, a full report ready for the state bar, documenting Candace's actions while I was dead. It had waited like a loaded weapon. Instead, I reached for a blank envelope, wrote a note to Bry. Tuesday, 10 a.m. walk with me, bring your questions, I'll bring the truth. This wasn't revenge, this was protection. Bry needed to know exactly who her mother had become, and exactly who her grandmother refused to be. She was already at the fountain when I arrived. Fog rolled low across the park. Her hands were tucked into an oversized sweatshirt, hair pulled into a loose bun. She didn't look confused or afraid. She looked ready. We began walking without speaking past the rose beds. I saw her, I finally said. Bry looked at me, waiting for the rest. She'd been sitting with an attorney, quietly plotting contingency strategies. Bry didn't press for details. She didn't need to. She just murmured, almost to herself, Yeah, that sounds exactly like her. She called me a disruption, I said. Bry's shoulders tightened at the word. And she said if I made any legal move, she'd attack my competency. We kept walking along the path. She doesn't want you back, Bry said, her voice low but steady. Not the real you. She wants the version of you that stays quiet, the version that never pushes back. She thinks I'm a problem she needs to control, I murmured. Bry nudged a loose stone with her toe. She controls everything: people, outcomes, scripts. Since I was a kid. We reached a bench. I lowered myself onto it and Bry sat beside me. Did she ever try to control you? I asked. A tiny laugh escaped Bry, humorless, brittle. Every single day. And do you let her? She didn't answer right away. Then quietly. I used to. I thought it was easier, less tension, less arguing. She has a talent for making you feel like you're the trouble. Like she's suffering because of your choices. I nodded. I had lived inside that performance for decades. But then, Bry continued, she started telling me who to be, what internships I should choose, who I should date, what to post online, how to dress, and I just started resisting. Softly, quietly, but she noticed. She said I was drifting, called it a phase, said I was ungrateful. Bry stared at the trees swaying overhead. She said the same things about you after the crash. Told people you were controlling, difficult, cold, that the house felt heavy because of you. She paused. She told people she was relieved, that she could finally breathe. That's not grief, I said. No, Bry whispered, it's not. A squirrel rushed across the path. Children's laughter echoed from somewhere far behind us. Then Bry asked the question that mattered. So what now? I already told you about the trust, she nodded. But there's more at stake than money, I said. This involves choice. You'll have to decide not between me and her, but between what's true and what's comfortable. Bry tilted her head thoughtfully. That's not hard, she said quietly. Then she looked straight into my eyes. I used to think staying quiet meant loyalty. Now I think it's just giving someone permission to hurt you. I exhaled, almost smiling. Smart girl. She reached into her sweatshirt pocket and pulled out her phone. She's going to come after you, she said. I think she already is. I'm not worried. She'll say you're unstable, she'll twist everything. She'll make it sound like you vanished on purpose. I've survived worse than her stories. Bry looked down, then up again. And if it turns ugly, what do you want me to do? I thought carefully. Stay clean, I said. Don't fight her for me. Let her destroy herself. She's been writing her downfall for a whole year. Let her finish it. Bry looked relieved and a little heartbroken. Do you ever miss the version of her that loved you? She asked softly. I didn't respond for a moment. I miss the version of her that didn't need to win at everything, I finally said. Bry nodded, her expression thoughtful. I'm moving out, she said suddenly, almost like she hadn't planned to say it aloud. I've been saving. A friend needs a roommate. It's small, but it'll be mine. I took her hand. She didn't pull away. I'm proud of you, I said. Her eyes glimmered, but neither of us cried. We just sat there, the two of us on that quiet bench, claiming a piece of peace together. No plotting, no hiding, just existing on our own terms. Somewhere far away, I pictured Candace pacing, calling, demanding, rewriting her script for the 100th time. But this time, she would find that the ending had already been decided. And it wasn't hers. The second time I stepped into her office, I didn't wait for permission. The receptionist stiffened at the sight of me. She recognized me, not by name, but as the woman who'd walked in weeks earlier and left behind a storm. She's in a meeting, the girl said nervously. I'll wait inside, I replied. She hesitated, but I didn't break stride. Candace's office door was half shut. I pushed it open quietly. Candace was pacing, phone pressed to her ear, tension carved into her forehead. When she saw me, she froze. I'll call you back, she snapped into the phone and ended the call immediately. June, she said, as if announcing bad weather. Candace? She folded her arms tightly across her chest, an instinctive shield. I said nothing. I wanted her to speak first. You can't just barge in here, she said sharply. I can, you're not well. I'm healthier than I've been in years. She glanced toward the hallway, checking for witnesses. What do you want? She demanded. I've already taken what I want, I said calmly. Now I'm just here for the silence that comes afterward, she scoffed. You think you're righteous, you abandoned everything, You disappeared, you left me to clean up the mess. You mean the house, the money, the life you rearranged to suit yourself. I didn't know what else to do, she snapped. You didn't want to know. Her jaw tightened. You sold the house, Candace. Not because you were drowning, because you could. You weren't grieving, you were clearing. I was surviving, she said through clenched teeth. No, I corrected. I survived. She flinched. I dragged myself out of that wreck with broken bones and blood in my lungs. I lay in a hospital bed while you picked out new countertops. Her face changed, something between guilt and rage. I thought you were dead. You never checked. I had to keep going. No, you should have slowed down. But slowing down means seeing yourself, and you couldn't do that. She turned away. I came today to look at you, I said. Not to scream, not to beg, just to see. And do you know what I see? She didn't turn. I see someone who's terrified, I said softly. Not of me, of exposure, of not being the hero in the story you tell the world. I never asked to be the villain, she whispered. No one does, I replied. But you cast yourself in that role. You built the stage, you directed the scene. Her face twitched, the smallest flicker of truth breaking through. You always thought you were better than me, she said bitterly. No, I said. I hoped you'd be better than this. She walked to the window, back rigid. You ruined everything, she said. No, I replied. I remembered everything, you tried to forget. She spun around. What do you want? An apology, a confession? Attention, none of it. Then why are you here? To tell you I'm not afraid anymore, I said. And you should be. Silence swallowed the room. You keep thinking you're holding the reins, I said softly. But you're not. Bry knows the truth. The courts know the truth. The money is locked. The house is gone, and your legacy has already shifted. Her shoulders sagged, not in defeat but in exhaustion. She was collapsing under the weight of her own lies. You raised a smart girl, I added. She made the wiser choice. I gave her everything, Candace whispered. No, I said. You gave her conditions, I gave her room. The quiet that followed wasn't tense, it was hollow. Finally she whispered, so what happens now? I leave, I said. You stay and you live with what you did. I turned toward the door. Wait, she said quickly, her voice suddenly thin. Do you hate me? I paused. No, I said. Hate means I still expected something. Then I shut the door gently, like closing a book I'd never read again. The office Marvin found was tiny, resting above a bakery that smelled of burnt sugar and warm bread. No glass walls. No polished wood. Just a file cabinet, stale coffee, and a man who knew my signature better than my daughter ever knew my heart. June, he said. Let's begin. He didn't waste time with small talk. I sat. He opened the folder. Here's the trust, he said. Revised exactly as you instructed. Once signed, it becomes irrevocable. I know the numbers, I said. What matters is the purpose. He nodded, sliding the next page toward me. This establishes the June Mallow Foundation for Transitional Women. Its mission, helping women over 50 regain financial and legal independence after spousal loss or family displacement. I read the line twice. Add this, I said. We help the ones nobody checks on. He smiled faintly. Done, we moved on. All property, accounts, and remaining assets transferred to the foundation, except the trust for Brianna. Yes, I said. She inherits at 25. No earlier, no exceptions. And Candace? She receives nothing, I said. Not a dollar, not an object, not even a footnote. He didn't blink, only made a neat note in the margin. I signed the first document, then the next. Each signature felt easier than the last. We moved to medical directives. If you become incapacitated, Marvin said gently, Brianna is your healthcare proxy. Yes. And power of attorney. She'll have it when she's ready. You hold it until then, he nodded. And if Candace challenges any of this, she can try, I said. He smiled again, small but certain. We continued. Final arrangements. Burial or cremation. No ceremonies, no eulogies, I said. Only the truth left behind, finally in the right hands. Add that sentence, I told him. Let the silence speak for me. She said everything she needed while she was alive in my life. Marvin's pen paused over the page, hovered for a second, then he wrote it down exactly the way I'd phrased it. When he finally capped the pen, the sunlight had already traveled across the window, stretching long shadows over the stack of paperwork. He closed the folder gently. Would you like a copy? He asked. No, I said. But Bry should have one when it's time. He folded his hands, studying me with an expression I hadn't seen before, something between admiration and solemnity. You're absolutely sure about all of this, June? Yes. It's generous, he said. And deliberate, I nodded. That's the point. He leaned back, taking me in, as if seeing a version of me he hadn't known existed. I've known you for a very long time, he said quietly. But I don't think I've ever heard you this certain. I was waiting, I replied, buttoning my coat. Waiting for all the noise to settle. Now I can finally hear myself again. I stood. He didn't rise this time, just watched. One more thing, he said as I reached the door. If Candace ever tries to apologize, she won't, I said before he finished. But if she did, I looked back at him. Then she'll be talking to someone who no longer owes her the courtesy of listening. Outside, the street was still. Early autumn wind tugged at my sleeves as I walked, bringing with it that crisp smell of dried leaves and new cold. A woman sat on a bench nearby, gripping a paper bag like it held something priceless. Her hands shook just a little. She gave me a small nod. I nodded back. No words passed, none were needed. I had spent 72 years waiting for someone to pull me out of the slow erosion of being useful only in pieces. Money here, advice there, a shelter when it suited them, and silence when it didn't. But now, for the first time, I had something solid, a foundation. Not just the one printed in the documents I'd signed, but the one I'd found inside myself. Knowing what I would no longer permit, knowing what I had reclaimed, knowing who would remember me for what mattered. The letter reached Candace on a Thursday, hand-delivered, no warning. She had just wrapped up a client call when the receptionist buzzed in. There's a courier here for you, the girl said. He says he has to hand it to you directly. Candace sighed into the phone. Fine, send him in. The man who entered looked perfectly forgettable: khakis, windbreaker, clipboard. He didn't linger, didn't glance around the expensive office. He simply handed over a narrow envelope with Candace's name typed neatly in the center. Good day, ma'am, he said, and left without waiting for acknowledgement. Candace stared at the envelope. No company logo, no return address. No hints, she tore it open. Inside was a single page. Clean, minimal, legal, formal notification of estate closure and financial forfeiture. She read the first line. Then she read it again. Her fingers began to tremble. Marvin's name appeared in the header, of course. Marvin, steady and quiet. Marvin, who had known my signature longer than she'd known the concept of inheritance. The language was dry, the tone precise. No emotion, no accusation. Per Section 4, Clause B of the revised estate directive executed under the full legal and medical capacity of June Eleanor Mallow, all previously assumed claims to property, assets, and inheritance under your name are hereby terminated, with immediate and irreversible effect. Candace's throat went tight. The letter continued, explaining the trust in Bry's name, the foundation, the revised will. It spelled out, in calm legal terms, everything she had refused to confront. Her mother had come back. Her mother had rewritten everything. Her mother had closed every door she'd been waiting behind. No money, no assets, no safety nets, no eventual fallbacks. Everything she had quietly counted on, already spent in her mind, was gone. And worse still, it was done cleanly. No scandal she could spin. No accusation she could defend against. No theatrics she could manipulate, just finality. She sank back in her chair, paper still in her hands but eyes fixed somewhere else, somewhere far outside the room. The office suddenly felt colder. She read the letter a third time, slower. Near the bottom she found one simple sentence: no further correspondence is required. Her jaw tightened. She crushed the paper in her fist, then hesitated. Slowly, deliberately, she smoothed it back out, pressing the creases flat. A part of her wanted to call Marvin, demand explanations, threaten litigation. But she knew, she truly knew, it wouldn't change a thing. This wasn't a debate. It was a closing act. She stayed seated long after her staff left for lunch. The room fell silent except for the ticking clock. Her phone buzzed. Her laptop chimed with reminders. She moved only once. She opened a drawer, removed a small photograph in a plastic dollar store frame. The three of us, Walter, myself, and a 7-year-old Candace perched on my lap, grinning with 2 missing teeth. She stared at it, not with pain or longing, but with a hollow recognition that finally had shape. She had won fast and lost faster. And no one, not one soul, was coming to explain why, because she already understood. The house looked smaller now, not because anything about it had changed, but because I had. Survival shrinks the myth of a place. You begin to see not the walls and rooms, but the echoes in them, the places where silence collected, the spaces where gratitude never came. I parked across the street, no need for tinted windows or disguises. Anyone could see me. I no longer cared. A new family lived there now. A young couple, a child's tricycle overturned by the walkway, a chalk drawing faded on the driveway. Floral curtains I never would have chosen hung in the front window. A ceramic rooster perched proudly on the porch railing. It actually made me smile. I wasn't here to reclaim anything. I was here to remember without grief. The mother stepped onto the porch and called out a name I didn't catch, a little one, bright and quick. A child barreled out after her, socks mismatched, hair wild, laughing with that unpolished joy only toddlers have. For a moment, I saw Candace at 3 years old, sprinting through the sprinkler in the same yard, water splashing into her eyes as she shrieked with delight. And just as quickly, I remembered her at 16, standing on those porch steps, screaming that I ruined everything, that I made life harder, that she couldn't wait to leave. Both memories lived in this grass. Both belonged to me. The front door was sage green now. The house number had been replaced. My wind chime was gone. The porch still creaked the same when the woman stepped inside, child on her heels, leaving the door cracked just long enough for warm music to slip out. I took a slow breath. I had planted roses along the side once, now replaced by neat little shrubs in perfect rows, too tidy for this worn-in house. It didn't hurt. It didn't need to. This home wasn't mine anymore, but it would always be the place where I turned into someone I never saw coming. A wife, a mother, a widow, and finally, a woman who stopped disappearing. I stepped out of the car, walked across the street, and stopped at the edge of the driveway. No need to go further. I lifted my gaze to the window that once held my bedroom. Rain on the glass, the humming fan. And the quiet, the long, aching quiet of being needed but never truly seen. I reached into my coat pocket. A photograph, faded, edges worn. Me on this porch, barefoot, laughing at something Walter had said. Candace curled in my lap. Bry's tiny hand in the corner of the frame, she must have taken it. I crossed the driveway, placed the picture beneath the mailbox, and set a smooth stone on top to keep it from blowing away. I wasn't leaving a message, just a truth. I lived here, and I no longer need anyone to validate that fact. As I walked away, the breeze shifted. The new wind chimes played a song I didn't recognize, sharper than mine ever were, but still music, still movement. And I let that sound follow me. Bry arrived near noon, letting herself in without knocking. "It's just me," she called out, exactly the way she used to when she was 10, worried she'd wake me from a nap. She held a brown paper bag. "I hope you're starving." The old guy at the deli finally fixed the potato salad recipe. I'd already set the table. 2 plates. Forks aligned the way I still pretended mattered. She unpacked the food effortlessly. Sandwiches, the potato salad, apples, and a single chocolate bar we'd share later without discussion. She poured water into mismatched glasses and sat across from me like it was any ordinary afternoon. We didn't need chatter. What used to be silence now just rested comfortably between us. She told me about a new elective she was taking, art history, something that didn't count for anything except joy. "That's the best kind of learning," I said. "You sound like a fortune cookie," she teased. "You sound like someone finally choosing her own life." Maybe I am. After lunch, we stepped onto the back patio. I had a few pots of herbs, mint, thyme, rosemary, small things with purpose. Bry crouched beside the biggest pot. "This one's dehydrated," she said. "You're letting it dry out." "I was waiting to see if you'd notice." She smirked. "You're a menace. You're slow." She laughed and went inside to fetch the watering can. When she returned, I sat in the sun, feeling it warm my arms the way it hadn't all year. She poured carefully, understanding how too much attention could drown a thing just as fast as neglect. When she finished, she didn't stand. She stayed crouched, picking at a leaf. I think I'm going to apply for that gallery internship, she said. The one in Portland, she nodded. I've been afraid to go. You're not leaving, I said gently. You're moving forward, her voice softened. What if I miss you? You will, her eyes glistened. Will you miss me? Every single day. She nodded, wiping her cheek. Good. We let the quiet settle again, warm and steady. When I was your age, I said, eyes closed, I thought healing meant forgetting, moving on fast, pretending things didn't matter. And now I think healing is just telling the truth again and again, until it stops hurting to hear yourself say it. Bri nodded. Even if no one believes it. Especially then. We stayed on the patio for a long time, saying nothing more. Before she left, Bri hugged me tight, long, real. I'm proud of you, I whispered. She held on harder. When she finally pulled back, she said, You changed everything. No, I said, I just stopped pretending. She watched me for a moment longer, then left. I didn't cry. Not because the moment wasn't deep, but because I was full. And sometimes, fullness is what peace feels like. Not the absence of hurt, but the moment when hurt no longer has anywhere left to stay.